Welcome back. I've teamed up with Domino Sugar to show you 3 beautiful and easy ways to decorate a layer cake. We'll be covering how to add buttercream rosettes to a cake, cover a cake in sprinkles, and to make a beautiful, colorful drip cake. All of these cakes are made with 6-inch layer cakes, and I've just used my go-to chocolate cake recipe to make them. Once your layers have baked and cooled, you want to stack and crumb coat them on a grease-proof cake board just like this. I like to add a little bit of buttercream to the bottom to help my layers stay in place as I frost them. Once your cake is covered in a thin layer of frosting, you want to chill it in the fridge or freezer until your frosting is firm to the touch. The first technique we're going to talk about is making a colorful drip cake. To do this, you want to add a second, thicker layer of frosting around your cake and get it as smooth as you can with a bench scraper. Then it's time to make a white chocolate ganache with some white chocolate and heavy cream. Once it's melted down, you can add in some gel food coloring to give it a beautiful color. And then it's time to add it to our chilled cake. It's important that your buttercream is fully firm to the touch and totally chilled to help your ganache set and to prevent it from running all the way to the bottom of your cake board. I also highly recommend doing a test drip where you take a spoonful of ganache and you make 2 or 3 drips on your cake and you just wait a minute and see how far the ganache runs down your cake. If you're happy with its length and the way it looks, you can go ahead and keep adding ganache around the cake. If the drips are too long, you might want to let your ganache cool off a little bit more, or if they're too short, you might want to heat it up a little bit. If you're adding your drips to your cake using a spoon like this, you want to add it to the top edge of the cake and then just carefully push it over the edge to create each little drip. If you have a plastic squirt bottle, you can also add your drips using that, and I actually enjoy using the bottle method more. I think it's easier and a lot quicker. Once you've covered the sides of your cake in drips, you can use any remaining ganache to cover the top of the cake and then just smooth it out using an offset spatula. You can then leave the cake just the way it is or top it with some buttercream swirls. The next technique we're going to cover is adding buttercream rosettes to a cake. The key to this is making sure your frosting is super smooth, so I recommend stirring it by hand with a rubber spatula just to get out any of those pesky air bubbles to give you silky smooth frosting. You also can do the spatula test where you junk it in and kind of look for that curl at the end of the spatula to make sure your frosting is the right consistency. You then want to use whatever color you want to pipe your buttercream rosettes in to cover your cake in a thin layer of buttercream. This will give you a lot of coverage, and that way you won't have any white frosting peeking through your rosettes. To pipe these, you can use either a closed star tip like that or an open star like this. Today I'll be using an open star to pipe my rosettes. I highly recommend piping a practice rosette if you aren't super comfortable piping or you're still getting the hang of these. You want to start in the center and then work your way out in a spiral just like that. Once you get to the end, you want to stop squeezing and then gently pull away. Once you feel comfortable with this, it's time to start adding our buttercream rosettes onto our chilled cake. It's a great idea to chill your cake before adding them because it helps the buttercream rosettes stay in place and kind of stick to the cake. As you're adding them, you want to make sure that you're piping in the same direction so that your rosettes have a cohesive look. You also want to think about where you're ending your rosette because if you can kind of layer your rosettes on top of one another, it can cover up those little tails. This is one of my favorite decorating techniques. I think it looks so beautiful and gives the cake such a gorgeous finished look. Our third and final technique is covering a cake with sprinkles. This is such a fun and quick way to decorate a cake. We're going to start by adding a second layer of buttercream to our cake and smoothing it out. Then we're going to move our cake onto a rimmed baking tray just like this, and we're going to take handfuls of sprinkles and gently pull them up the sides of the cake. You want to have a gentle touch as you do this where you're pressing firmly enough for the sprinkles to stay in place, but that you're not pressing hard enough to dent your frosting. Then you just have to sweep away the excess sprinkles and you're all ready to go. You could totally leave it just like that, or if you want to, you could also pipe a border around the top using an open star tip. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you found it helpful. And until next time, happy baking!